You know, there's a huge transformation happening in education right now. But here's the twist. It's not actually focused on the students. It's all about empowering the educators. So today, we're going to dive into this new frontier of teacher training and look at how some seriously cutting-edge tools are completely rethinking how we prepare people for the classroom. So let's just ask the big question right up front. Is the way we train teachers kind of broken? I mean, for decades, professional development has pretty much looked the same. You're sitting in a stuffy conference room for a day-long workshop. But does that static approach really get anyone ready for the chaotic, wonderful, and totally unpredictable reality of a classroom? The evidence is pretty clear that we can and really must do better. And this really breaks down the massive shift we're talking about. Over on the left, that's the old way, the sit and listen workshop. It's passive, it's one size fits all, and let's be honest, it treats every teacher like they're exactly the same. But on the right, that's where we're headed. We're talking about hands-on, interactive, experiential learning. It's the huge difference between hearing about teaching and actually, doing it. So the big question is, how do we make that leap? How do we get from just passively sitting there to actively doing? Well, the answer is pretty amazing. It's all about creating a new kind of immersive reality for training. And there are two key pieces of tech that are making this possible as we speak. First up, you've got virtual reality, VR. And yeah, you've probably seen this stuff before. You pop on a headset and boom, your entire world is replaced by a digital one. But just stop and imagine what this means for a teacher. We're talking about stepping into a super realistic classroom simulation, or practicing in a state-of-the-art science lab, or even visiting an ancient historical site, all without ever leaving the training room. It is total immersion. And then you've got its cousin, augmented reality, or AR. Now this is a little different. AR doesn't totally replace your world. Instead, it adds these cool digital layers right on top of what you're already seeing. So picture this. You point your tablet at a plain old empty desk, and suddenly, a beating 3D heart just appears, floating right there. You can walk around it, look at it from every angle. That's the magic of AR. It literally makes the invisible visible. All right, so we've got these incredible new tools, VR and AR, but what does this actually look like when the rubber meets the road? Let's get into the nitty-gritty of how they're being used to create practical, hands-on learning experiences that really bring teacher training to life. And this really gets to the heart of it, the biggest benefit of all, a safe place to practice. I mean, teaching is filled with high-stakes moments, right? Well, this immersive tech creates a kind of digital sandbox. It's a place where teachers can tackle really tough scenarios, like a classroom meltdown or a difficult parent conversation, and sharpen their skills without any of the real-world pressure or consequences. It's an absolute game changer. So here's a play-by-play of how this might work. A teacher puts on the headset and steps into a virtual classroom. Then the simulation throws a curveball. Maybe a student starts acting out or the smartboard just dies. They have to deal with it, right there in the moment. But honestly, the most crucial part is what happens after. That's the debrief. They get to break down what they did, why they did it, and then they can jump right back in and try a different approach. It's this amazing loop. Practice, get feedback, and get better. And it's not just about classroom management, not by a long shot. The possibilities are huge. Think about it. With AR, a teacher could have their students mix dangerous chemicals for a science experiment without any actual risk. Or they could sit in on a master teacher's class in a 360-degree video, even if that teacher is on the other side of the planet. Or how about a VR field trip to ancient Rome? It just makes all these big abstract ideas totally concrete and real. Okay, so this all sounds amazing in theory, right? But the real question is, does it actually work out in the real world? Well, let's take a look at some proof from the field. We're going to start with a really interesting case study that came out of rural China. So, here's the situation. You've got a bunch of rural high schools, and they're dealing with a really common problem. They just don't have the money for fancy, fully equipped science labs. So what was the solution? An augmented reality app for a mobile phone or tablet. The idea was simple. Give these teachers and students a way to run experiments and see complex chemical reactions happen right in front of them, all virtually. And let me tell you, the impact was profound. It wasn't just some cool tech gimmick. Just listen to what one of the chemistry teachers said about it. It completely revolutionized how she could teach something like the periodic table. For the students, it meant they could literally point a device at an element and see it come alive with animations of its electrons. It made the invisible visible. So when you see success stories like that one from China, you realize this isn't science fiction anymore. This really is the future of professional development. So that begs the question, What's it going to take to really make this happen, to empower all of our educators with these amazing new approaches? Well, if we want this to be the new normal, there are a few key things we have to remember. First off, this kind of training can't be a one and done deal. It has to be continuous. It's a journey, right? And of course, it needs to use these creative, engaging tools we've been talking about. But maybe most important of all, it has to be relevant. It has to solve the real-world problems that teachers are facing every single day. And finally, you need that support network, a way for teachers to share what works and help each other grow. You know, when you boil it all down, it comes back to a really simple but incredibly powerful idea. When you empower an educator, when you give them the best tools and support, that empowerment doesn't just stop with them. It ripples outward. They take that feeling right back into their classroom, and they, in turn, empower their students. And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. We spend so much time talking about the cost of buying new technology, but after everything we've looked at today, maybe we're asking the wrong question. Maybe the real question we should be asking ourselves is, what's the true cost of not investing in our teachers?